Hello everyone, how are you this fine morning? It's me, Shane Lee. Now, has anyone ever heard of a girl maybe getting pregnant if her boyfriend cheated on her and lied to her and didn't tell her, and then having a baby 8 months later that weighed 4 pounds 9 ounces, which would have been his birth weight if he had developed normally for that period of time? Now, I never heard of that, Maribel. I never knew that would happen. And I cheated on you because for 18 months, or 17 and a half months, it was full 18. A full 18 months from February 14th, our first sex night, to September 19th, 18th, 19th, I think 18th, 19th, and 20th, somewhere in there. You were having sex with me, but you were spending more time either at Steve's house or Bart's, and I was constantly seeing Steve more than Bart. So after all that time, I thought you were cheating on me with Steve. I didn't give a shit anymore. Well, like with Daphne leaving me stranded in Tennessee, even though we had the coincidences, which you said they were to you, and that, after the fact, there's two somewhat coincidences. Both our names, MRBL or MRY, are encoded in the Bible code 50/50. I know. MRBL, though, isn't one word, it's two words. And again, it's a little, different, but whatever. Now, Gideon was called Maribel, but it was two words in the Old Testament. But Mary, which is what I called you, is also encoded. But when I broke up with you, I was tired of your bullshit between Bart, Steve, and whatever. And, I broke up with you because, also the same with Michelle, because instead of being in a committed relationship with me, you were always off. I could never approach you when I wanted to for sex myself, and I felt like it was a one-sided relationship where you were monopolizing the sex and getting your rocks off. But if I wanted to go over there, say, to Steve's and pick you up, like I tried to do one time, you would never come out to me, or you would call the police on me or stuff like that. So I would leave, and I felt like the relationship was one-sided. All me loving you, but you not being able to reciprocate when I wanted me a little action on the side. Well, that's what I got tired of. And, now, I did write you a letter either in December or January to see if you were okay, but then I sent it with a delivery thing to make sure it was delivered from my job, Stafford Autopay. Scott signed for the letter, and so I figured, okay, she moved on, and I moved on. And, I didn't think of you, except maybe once in a blue moon, until you called me and told me about Patrick. That's called moving on, too. I had two relationships after that, too. With Michelle first, that's the girl I cheated on you with, but I didn't tell you. And then with Denise, that was in 98, after Michelle. But then, after that, I didn't have sex until Molly for about 10 years. And that was it. I'm not a promiscuous person, but I know when someone is treating me right and treating me like shit. And reason I'm celibate now isn't you, it isn't Molly, it's me. I know. Again. Reason I'm celibate now is I see today women are more sexually driven and don't want a relationship because that's what men are, more sexually driven. And I've never really fit into this modern dating scene anyway. So for 10 years, 3.5 of them I didn't even masturbate. Or have even a wet dream, or even have any kind of sexual, masturbation with my junk and doing like that. If you know what I mean. But again, physical masturbation when using your hand, and I didn't even do that for 3.5 years. Now, after that, I started doing it again a little bit, and didn't have any problems with that until the Abilify, but I was having problems getting an erection with the Abilify, and when I quit it, my erection came back. So it was Abilify, and different things like that. And now, again, I'm trying to move on from you, but I'm trying to figure out, did I get you pregnant with Patrick or not? I mean, I don't care. It's not like if he is my son, I could make him Scott's son or vice versa. I mean, I'd treat him like a stepson or my biological son either way. He's one or the other. I know. If you got pregnant shortly or after me, whatever. I would treat him like a stepson, though. I don't even know if he's a stepson, because you have to be legally married for him to be a stepson, but I would treat him like he's a child born to my ex-lover who doesn't want to deal with it if it could be mine too. I know. That's what you're making me do. I know when you called me, it wasn't to verify that Patrick was my son. It was because you didn't want him to be my son. Quit lying about that. You're lying to me. I know. You don't want him to be my son. You didn't call to find out if he was my son. You called to rub it in my nose that you got pregnant by Scott in your mind. And B, you didn't want me to verify he could be mine. Well, I did, and I started giving you a little bit of child support and stuff like that. And, then you finally said you had a DNA test with Scott, which, why are you calling me if you have a DNA test with Scott? You would know one way or the other. I know. And again, that's when I told you I hanged up on you and didn't want to talk to you again. I never heard from you again either. I know. Now, this is on YouTube talking about my life. I know. And like it or not, you, Sheena, Daphne are part of my life. Now, I wouldn't be using your real names unless I'm doing it as an autobiography, not changing the names because we're real people. But Maribel is a common name out of Mexico or Spain or even the Philippines. I met another Maribel after you. See, you might not even be the right Maribel for me or Mary. I know. Those are common names. I know. Just like Shane is. But the difference between me is God gave me the dream and then spoke to me while reading about the two witnesses and said, that's you. I know. Now, I now look at that a little bit more humbler, I guess like Pastor Thomas wanted me to, but I still believe in my dream and voice that it has something to do with the two witnesses in the book of Revelations. Now, does that mean I'm going to go marching off to Jerusalem half-cocked by myself? No, I'm two witnesses. It's either one male and one female, or two males and two females, or whatever, it means. I don't know. I'm a man, I know. Part of being a prophet for God isn't just learning what God wants you to say. It's also being humble and trying to wait for God to let you know what to do the best you can. I know. See, that means no one's perfect and I'll make mistakes, but I have a general idea that part of it has to do with finding at least one other person. And I was told in the beginning that they think the two witnesses are two men, Moses and Elijah, or Enoch, or it could even be two people in the spirit of Elijah, like John the Baptist, who was sexually conceived, but was told Zechariah was told by Gabriel, and Jesus himself said that John was Elijah. So that's what I mean. That's what you mean. And that's through personal study, which, the church isn't saying that Jesus was Moses and John was Elijah, and they were the two witnesses either. Now see, and I think the church is missing that Moses and Elijah already came in John and Jesus. They're trying to act like Jesus and John weren't in the spirit of Moses and Elijah and weren't the first true two witnesses. And see, I didn't know any Hebrew when the voice said that. It's you. But then, or when I went out to Christian Fellowship Church, I started learning about the Bible and the different languages, Greek, Hebrew, and Latin that the Bible was originally written in. Now, Latin didn't become associated with Christianity until 325 AD. Well, Christian Fellowship Church was teaching me that the Catholics were a bunch of false prophets and took over the church, and there's no Trinity, and God is one, there's one man, and the man is Christ Jesus, and you're to only worship the male image and stuff like that. Well, Paul said the male and female are one in Christ Jesus, and no one wants to understand what that means. Well, then, through science, I found out about DNA and how we reproduce. Christ, if a man, and conceived by his father but no mother, would be what's called a asexual being, meaning he was either placed into the womb or God placed a sperm in the womb and it joined with the egg asexually. But again, something like that would have to have occurred. Now, of course, a hermaphrodite female can get pregnant on their own, but only a hermaphrodite female might do that. And those are the three possibilities that a single female can get pregnant. But it all involves a not normal conception as well. The female alone got pregnant by herself, according to the story in the Bible. Now, a lot of scientists and a lot of people, Muslims, Jews, and different people like that, don't want to believe in the idea of a virgin birth. Now, they sort of embrace it, but then they say in Islam he wasn't the son of God. Well, let me explain something to you about that. You're all the sons of God if you're male. Then if you're the females, you're the daughters of God. And some are hermaphrodites, they're the son and daughter of God. Now, I don't know if Jesus was a true hermaphrodite, but John did say, when he saw Jesus in heaven and was describing his body and his garment, which was white, and his head and hair were white, and his body was as brass, his hands and feet, and his eyes were a flame of fire, and he had, according to John's description, a word mastois in his chest area, which is associated not with a female chest, but a female's chest in the Greek. Now, if you don't read into this, of course, you don't know it. So you're not teaching from 2,000 years ago. You're teaching from today, acting like you're teaching from 2,000 years ago. Well, men have put in their own traditions after the disciples left, including Constantine, including different churches and different organizations, and no one is really understanding the whole. That's all I'm trying to do. And I now have a different understanding. I'm more compassionate, more forgiving of others, and trying to work it out with God and Jesus, and act like no one's perfect here. Not me, not you. We all make mistakes. That's the point, Maribel. Had I knew that if I were to cheat on you, I would have gotten you pregnant, I wouldn't have cheated on you because I knew you didn't want to have a baby. Now, me and Molly did it unprotected, but I don't know if she got pregnant either. But I was trying to make sure that wouldn't happen. Now, the only way a female can't get pregnant, Molly, is two ways. If you're really a transgender person, which I didn't want to be with anyway, and were lying to me the whole time, or you are ovulating. Those are the only two ways you can't get pregnant at all. And I was trying to make sure that we didn't cross any boundaries there to get you pregnant, because you said you were a female, right? Unless you were lying. But then that means you're really a transgender person and was taking advantage of the argument between me and Shane on you, Shane. And clearly, if you did that, you weren't listening to what I was saying, because I didn't want a transgender person, but a real female. That's the point there. But I did wait until the last night to make sure you would get wet on the spot. Now, transgender people would have to lube up. Well, that means is a transgender person does not naturally get wet like a female. There's a way to tell if a person is transgendered if they don't get wet. Now, Maribel and Molly were not transgendered, though I did say a little thing about it jokingly, thus hypothetically. Now, the problem with me and Maribel is she has a mental block because she convinced herself when she found out she was pregnant after she was with Scott with a one-night stand that the child was Scott's, and she believed that and got married to Scott. But like I said, with me, she didn't want to marry me, and she kept breaking off our engagements and breaking her promises to me, which is why I finally cheated on her, which is a natural thing for any male to do after all that stress and strain in the relationship after 18 months. So I gave up, cheated on her, didn't tell her, lied to her like I felt like she was lying to me, and had sex with her 2 to 3 times before I left on Saturday. And I asked her last night, did she want any more sex? And she said no, so I left. And then 2 weeks later, I sent her the Dear John of the breakup letter, and I didn't contact her again for 3 months until around December or January anyway. And I sent her a letter from my job as a return to sender. It's a little green thing where you get the person to sign for the letter. Well, I sort of did it ambiguously under my job. The place I was working at, I got a letter from my job and sent it so that you would open the letter and read it too. I know. That's why I did all that. But a guy named Scott Edward Harrison, who I didn't even know, signed for it. So also, she moved on. So I said, okay, well, she's moved on. It's time for me to move on fully. Well, that's what, around July, I started trying to go on disability, and that was 98. And then I didn't get it until around, no, that was still 97. And then I finally got it the following year, and when I was in my new place, that's when I met Denise Maribel. I moved on from you. I mean, I don't know what y'all about, but I moved on from you. I hated how you treated me, and I didn't want anything else to do with you. I didn't know you got pregnant until you called me when I got my disability and was living in my new apartment, which I moved out of my old one into a new one. And I also bought me a Mustang and a truck, which I was going to give one of the vehicles to my friend David, but that didn't work out either, but whatever. Alright, but with you, then you called me 3 years after in 2000, right? Am I lying? Telling me about you and Scott and blah, 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 and how you were happy now, and I was happy for you, But then you told me about Patrick and his birth weight and all that stuff there too. Now, all I can do is say, wait a minute, he was 4 pounds, 9 ounces, and you just met Scott, and 5.5 months later you had the baby? And that doesn't sound right. That's all I thought. That baby is too big to maybe be Scott's. I don't know for sure. But then what did I do? I went to the library to check out a book on pregnancy and birth weights of children at different stages of their development. Well, I thought, it was at least 6 months or something, right? So I said, well, the baby would have been around 2 pounds, not 4 pounds, 9 ounces. If he was even 2.5 pounds, that would be pressing it, and that's why they're premature. Now, this is a normal, pregnancy too, with a normal female who isn't RH negative as well. Now, some females who are RH negative can't even have babies with people who are RH positive. But I'm O positive, which is next to O negative, the universal donor. And these two blood types could only interact with each other. And in an emergency, O negative might could receive O positive in an emergency. But never can you cross bloodlines with AB, B, or A. These bloods just do not mix together. And there's nothing you can do about it. And what I mean by that is you cannot give someone who's AB, A, or B any other blood but those blood groups. And that's the point. If you give them anything else, they'll die. Now, I'm O, meaning I cannot receive blood from anyone unless they're O positive or O negative. But I can give blood to them all. They can all receive my blood alone. O positive is sort of the decision maker when it comes to pregnancies as well. And it can also easily conceive as well than unless you're the same blood type as well. And it don't mean that people who are different blood types can't get pregnant by each other either, but it's probably a more difficult pregnancy. So I don't know. It's just a theory right now. But some people are barren, meaning they can't conceive. Either the male is sterile or the female cannot hold the baby or produce an egg. Or the egg and the sperm, when they join together, for some reason she can't carry the baby full term, and they miscarry sometimes. Like you did the second time with Scott. Now, that's not your fault. It's not Scott's fault. It's just biology. Wish I still got my book on biology. Right here. Trust me. I showed it to you already. I ain't going to show it to you again. But again, normal pregnancies, a normal child developing in the womb, starts out as a single cell once the sperm and egg combine. Then during its development, it matures at a certain weight, length, and height until it's born. And when it's born, it's considered full term, 9.5 month pregnancy. The reason it's 9.5 is the actual pregnancy is 10 weeks, which is technically 40 weeks, which is technically 10 months. Now, the thing is, though, in our calendar, that's a little around 9.5 months, more or less, Probably more like 9 months, 10 days, but that's the point, depending on when you conceive. And that's what I was trying to tell you, only. I'm saying, if you were only with me like you said you were, and then you were with Scott 3 months later, looks like Patrick might be mine. I wasn't trying to ruffle your feathers. I wasn't trying to prove it to you. I wasn't even sure, because you were still being mean and arrogant and vain and didn't love me. Which is why I cheated on you anyway. It's like, fuck you, bitch. I know you don't love me. You didn't want to be with me. So I let you go. I can't tell you anything other than that. And that's why I broke up with Daphne and you. You're treating me like shit for 17 months, 18 months. And don't think like Daphne. Just because of a few coincidences, which you said there were coincidences to you that I was telling you to me, I think they're omens. I don't know what it means yet, but again. And then I was telling you, the listeners were telling me, Jonathan wasn't my son, and stuff like that, and I was all confused about Daphne, and I was so confused about Daphne, I had to get a DNA test to make sure Jonathan was mine too, and now I know he is. So it wasn't about Jonathan, but maybe it was about your denial that Patrick is my son, possibly too. Because see, you want him to be Scott's, and you preferred Scott over me because as soon as you found out you were pregnant, instead of checking the facts medically, you just married Scott. And Scott, being a decent fellow, also thought he got you pregnant. But that's called a delusion, because when the child was born, he's 4 pounds 9 ounces. That traces back to the time you were with me. Now, I can get a calendar and show you why. From 40 to when you would have had the baby as well, for 40 weeks, and how that works too, medically, with normal pregnancies, which even with Scott, you're shorter than Scott. Scott is taller than you, but that don't mean your baby at 5.5 months would have been anything more than 2 pounds, if that. You can't get around that medically, and it's not your fault you don't want to believe it. You're in a delusion and don't want to deal with reality because you didn't want to get pregnant by me, and I didn't do it to intentionally get you pregnant either. That's all I'm saying. If you did it was because I cheated on you with Michelle, and no one ever told me that cheating on a female and you're with another female would get her pregnant either. Which seems to possibly, not sure, I need a DNA test to verify it one way or the other, that I might could have gotten you pregnant around that time, or if you were with another male, like your stepdad hypothetically, or another African American, or whatever, another Caucasian. But it would have to be before October 15th, which is what the baby's birth weight is telling me. I know. You conceived after you were with me before October 15th, and that's a whole month. I know. Or so. No. And the child, if you had sex with Steve, Bart, or someone else, wouldn't even know the guy's name, because I broke up with you. You were pissing me off with all this shit you were pulling. My car broke down on the way back, so I was tired of this. I cheated on you because Roddy set me up with Michelle. And that was like a 2-week thing. He also set me up with Denise. I know. And then whoever was arguing with me, calling themselves shame on you, set me up with Molly because I guess Molly didn't like how they were treating me. Whatever. And she took my side and we had sex. And the second time, but not the first time. But like all gentlemen, you don't talk about that immediately. I wasn't doing it to fuck Molly. We were just friends with benefits that happened. And that's all she really wanted from me, if not more. And, but again, when I tried to make it a relationship, she got upset and broke up with me. And then she started talking about rape and me raping her, shit like that, when she was on top. Well, she's a 23 grown-ass woman. And, don't get on top of the male if you don't want sex with the male either. Because he will ejaculate into you, and if you are female, not a transgender person, you will get pregnant. And if it's close to your ovulation time, I was trying to not do that with Molly. And that's why I did it only one time, and it was quick because she was mounting me, and I hadn't had sex in about 3 years, or so, or it was 3 years after that. I forget all the details, but since Denise, so that was 10 years actually, and I hadn't had contact with a female in 10 years. And, so Molly was my first lover after Denise, and then now I'm celibate, not having sex with anyone, male, female, or hermaphrodite. Now that I know there's 3 genders, not 2, whatever you want to call them. They're a third gender now because New York acknowledged the third gender. And now someone can claim to be both genders. Now, this isn't a transgender person who was born male or female and wants to become the opposite sex they were born either. Though there could be hormonal reasons and imbalances between the connecting male and female DNA that makes the person feel that way as well. Because some people are saying things like homosexuality or transgenderality is because of your genetics, and that could be true too. And I don't dispute that because you can neither prove nor disprove it. And Jesus said, "Judge not, lest you be judged." That's all I know. So anyway, y'all have a nice morning, and I think that covers my topics for today. For right now, I'm waiting for my stepdad to bring the lawnmower by so I can finish doing my grass because the line for my weed eater is done. It got broken down and it's no longer long enough to cut the grass, so I gotta use the lawnmower right now after that. But I did show you how to try and work on it. Now, of course, the line did hit the cord, but it's a plastic line on a thick cord, so it didn't do any damage to it. That can happen normally if you're not used to using that kind of tool. But the reason that happened too is I'm not familiar with using one, not an electrical one. I've heard of, I might have used a gas one before, but not an electrical one. Anyway, and the point is what? I don't know. That's just lawn maintenance, and I'm putting it up on YouTube because that's something I've never seen on YouTube. Just a different video there. So anyway, whatever. Y'all are all acting crazy about this stuff. Y'all still insisting I'm molesting my stepdaughter when she can go to the police department at any time and charge me with a crime. We've been talking about it openly now for 12 years on YouTube, 10 years after me and Daphne were even together. And, when all this started. And now, like I told you, things change, people change. They might even have a show dealing with pedophilia in the future. I don't know. But that's possible. Because they have all kind of shows going on today. Like I said, that would just be hypothetical. Again, if someone was attacking me or trying to kill me or I somehow landed to fall, right? But I have no memory of it because it's all associated with fall, like with the car accident. And again, if someone was arguing me, that's what I would reference, that God could maybe heal me and resurrect me from the dead, period. Like with Jesus on the cross, or the boy and the girl, or whoever it wants to resurrect, it can resurrect. Why do you doubt God and believe in the power of death of Satan more than the power of God? That's what I'm seeing. Because your faith is what determines your destiny in God and Jesus. And God and Jesus hear us arguing right now. Right? And guess what? If you're in the wrong and I'm being faithful to Jesus, you will die like you're trying to kill me, and I might be resurrected like Jesus if I'm telling the truth. And if I'm telling the truth, and only God knows I'm telling the truth, He'll resurrect me from the dead anytime I asked Him to, within a matter of minutes, if I asked Him to too. Because the boy and girl had just both probably died. And shortly after their death, Jesus raised them from the dead. The girl could have been within 15 minutes, and the boy was already on the pyre, so I don't know how long they normally bury, but usually you bury someone within 2 to 3 days, either way, or the same day, right? Jesus and Lazarus were buried after they died in the tomb. Lazarus was in the tomb for 4 days, and Jesus around 2.5 to 3. If you get technical, or 1.5 Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which is really 36 hours from dusk Friday till dawn Sunday, from dusk to dawn, so to speak. All right. Stop trying to make you think it's Maribel, dumbass. We're over. Now, some of it is me. I'm wanting Maribel in a way to come back, because now that Patrick might could be mine, I'm concerned. That's all. But she's also being mean and hateful and don't wanting to be mine still after all this time. So I can't do nothing about that. And I know that. That's why I'm not even stalking them or getting involved with their lives, other than talking about it openly in an open format for a discussion on YouTube. That's it. That's all. Starting up a brand new day. A little bit of sting there. Now, another thing is YouTube is starting to demonetize my videos a little bit, and they don't need to. And A, my videos are for educational purposes, and B, I'm not making a whole lot of money off of them anyway. And I'm teaching for educational purposes, and all this is legal. This is legal, even under copyright infringement. And see, a lot of people take the rule and bend them and apply it in a way it don't even apply. And that's a problem with man too. And like, don't cuss. And well, the Bible don't say don't cuss. It says try to be eloquent in your speaking and respect each other's boundaries. And now, if you don't like a certain word, but I like using that word, you can't no more send me to hell for using that word than I can the food you eat, for example. If you were kosher and you don't like eating pork, and you're Jewish, I understand that. But I'm not. I was raised Gentile, so I eat pork. So I eat pork now still. But you can't make me not eat pork, nor can I make you eat pork. That's called a disagreement in that area. Now, if I eat pork, I can't condemn you and kill you for that any more than you can kill me for eating it. I can't kill you for not eating it, but nor can you kill me for eating it. That's insanity. That's Satan. That's murder. That's war. And Satan is also Ares, the god of war in Greek mythology too. And who is God, the god of war, making us war against man? And now Satan also started the war in heaven by rebelling from Jesus in the first place. And the problem is no one but man joined Satan in his war against God, the gods, and the other gods. And that's why Ares and Satan are the god of war. In both Greek and Hebrew mythology. Though Satan is called the enemy in Hebrew mythology, or Ha-Satan. And in Greek mythology, he's Ares, the god of war. Which who is he causing to war? Man. And he's rebelling from his father Zeus in heaven too. And it's another metaphor for the gods. Now the gods don't get directly involved unless you ask them to, which I would do anytime Pastor Thomas or anyone would argue with me about being one of the two witnesses. Especially if it came down to a life or death situation. And I would do it anytime they threatened me. And it would have to be between certain hours of when I just went to sleep. And you've seen, of course, the movie Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson. What's the name of it? Where the Marines beat one of their own to death because of a disagreement with the guy, and they tried to kill him. They killed him or something like that. It's called a Code Red back in the movie and stuff like that. Well, Tom Hanks was either the lawyer for the defense or the prosecution. I forget all the details, but again, that was because of an incident where either a Marine was beaten almost to death or to death. And Tom Cruise played the lawyer either on the prosecutor's side, and Jack Nicholson was a colonel or a general in over the whole thing. And he was on the stand and he said, "You can't handle the truth," right? You know that famous line, and that's what I'm talking about too. A lot of people play religion, but the truth is they don't really read it. What I see is people are compartmentalizing the Bible, teaching parts of it, but not the whole thing. It's like, if I read the Dead Sea Scrolls to you and read only parts of it, you will understand those parts, but not the whole. Well, when I was going out to Christian Fellowship Church, almost every church does this. They only show me what they're comfortable with, and they repeatedly show it to you forever. I mean, I bet Christian Fellowship Church is still teaching the same doctrine Pastor Davis started teaching them there. And that's called becoming stale and not going on to perfection. And anyone can pick certain passages from the Bible and teach it to you repetitively like it's the truth, and you believe them because you don't know what they're saying is not the truth. That's called a cult, by the way, when you do that. But it's not until you take the whole, like I started doing, like Paul did. And for 3 years he was doing something in Arabia, maybe reading the Septuagint in Greek and the Hebrew law and the prophets. Until he was done, he didn't even associate himself with the disciples. After that 3-year period, that's when his ministry began. And now in the book of Acts, if you read it, it looks like, Paul was converted, and then suddenly he comes back on the scene after Peter introduces Jesus to Cornelius, and Cornelius and the first Gentile converts get saved and brought into the church, and then later on they have their councils. But after that, Paul starts actually ministering and bringing people to the church too. So that's when the ministry of Paul takes over the gospel, and because of his work with the Gentiles. And even though they're uncircumcised, which is a Jewish thing, he was inviting them into the church and not requiring them to be circumcised, which did cause a problem with certain Hebrew or Jewish believers as well. And they were arguing about it too. And then they came up with other laws. don't eat things strangled or this, that, and another. That's still what? Laws. Rules. Of course you can eat something strangled. Even sacrifice to idols. But you're making it a sin. Now, why do we say grace before we eat our food? Because they could have sacrificed it to idols. But what we do is we pray to the Lord to undo that and cancel out their offering to their God. What we do is instead is we say grace before our meals to do that. I mean, if you understand it religiously, that's what we're doing. We don't know who prepared the food even on our table, and if they didn't sacrifice it to idols. Well, if they did, what we do is we say grace over our own food. So if it was sacrificed to idols, we pray over ourselves and offer it as a sacrifice, not to their God, but our God, Jesus Christ, if you're a Christian. For example, if you're a Muslim and you pray 5 times a day, you may or may not pray over your food individually, but we Christians do as part of our way of worshiping on Jesus, just like as you worship only the name of Allah, or the God you call Allah. But see, I read your books too. I read them all, and that's how I'm trying to explain to you, we're all wrong. We're all condemning each other. We're all murdering each other in the name of our God, the Supreme Being, whatever you want to call it. Allah, Jesus, Eloah, Eluah. And those are some of the names of God too. Even in Hebrew, there's different ways to say its name. Even Elah, Allah, are similar. And that's found in Strong's Concordance too. And what I'm trying to point out to you is y'all are all really either half brothers and cousins. Yet you're fighting over the same land like you both own it. Well, the truth is what? You can own any piece of land if someone gives it to you. Well, the Jews think their God gave them the land of Israel. The same as the Muslims. But you're fighting over the land using the same supreme being, just calling that a little different. An E versus an A. I'm serious, I'm serious. And you're trying to murder each other if you don't agree. Well, the feminine laugh there you might have heard was me hoping Maribel, in my mind, will laugh at that statement if she were here with me now. Don't mean it was really Maribel. She's off where she's at, and I dated her for 18 months, so she's kind of in my psyche. And that's my hope that she would one day at least witness with me and stuff like that. But it's not the real Maribel either. It's my intellect hoping in that brief thought that Maribel would laugh at that joke, because this is a joke, and in my mind I was just hoping she would laugh. And when we were making love, sometimes I would sound like her when we made love. I would sound feminine and not masculine, and I was demonstrating how I could impersonate the different artists even with her and Daphne. So Daphne and Maribel both know I can do all this stuff on YouTube too. So whatever. And it's real teaching videos from 5.5 years of music, and from grade school, 6th grade to 10th grade in high school. That's a lot of music, more than college. But college is paid music, and I've heard all the rumors there that you can manipulate the equipment, that you can make your voices sound better with autotune, and I'm just trying to teach you how to do it with or without autotune. And I don't have it on my computer, but if you have it on yours and use it to enhance your voice, that's fine. But the thing is, you're still trying to make it A, sound like a human voice, and B, singing the same notes. We all sing. Well, that's called impersonating the artist's voice and teaching people to really sing the song if they wanted to learn to sing the song, even if you're using nothing. That's all. Not to judge you either. All right, anyway, y'all have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.